Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Dominique and I'm absolutely excited to host this panel today. I'm a customer success manager at Tulip and I'm covering mostly North America, and we have an exciting panel for you today. And actually, quite frankly, I'm excited for multiple reasons. As I mentioned, we can now hear live from people sharing their story, how they're using edge devices in real time, literally. And the other thing is that actually a year ago, I listened in as a guest to this one exact meeting, and that was really fantastic. And I could hear real-time feedback from customers. And I was so excited that I actually decided to join Tulip. And here I am, 1 year later, hosting my very first panel and event, and I couldn't be more excited. So let's jump right in. Let's meet the panel. We are having today, as you can see, great people joining. We have Luis from Leardell Medical, we have Dan from Dentsply, we have Tanya from Apex, and we have Marius from DMG Mori. Again, welcome and thank you so much for attending today. With the very first question, hi. Hi, Tanya. Hi. Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining. We would love to kick it off with a quick intro and link it to learning more about yourself, and at the same time, what kind of edge devices are you using today in your organization?
Hi, so I'm Tanya. I'm from OPEX, and we do use the edge devices on multiple lines of our production. They have. I'm sorry?
Hi. Hi, Tanya. Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining. We would love to kick it off with a quick intro and link it to learning more about yourself.
So I think we're having a little bit of feedback.
What kind of edge devices are you using today in your organization? Yeah, I hear that too. Would you mind, maybe we jump, while we're fixing that, we're jumping maybe to Dan, and then we come back to you in a second, if you don't mind, and then we can figure that out, if the feedback, where that's coming from.
Hello.
Hi, Dan. Nice to meet you. Welcome
Pleasure.
to the panel. We're excited to have you around. So we'd love to get a quick intro from you and what kind of edge devices you're using today.
Yeah, so I'm Dan Ron, the lead engineer for operational excellence and continuous improvement at Dentsply Sirona. And we use a couple of edge devices. We're connected to machines for machine monitoring. We have Pictolites, as well as a couple other peripherals attached at the edge.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We can't wait to hear more about how you're using them and what use cases you're covering in a second.
Yeah, great.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Luis. Welcome to our panel. Would you care introducing yourself real quick and sharing what kind of edge devices you're using today?
Hey, hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to this session. I'm glad to be here. As you know, this is Luis Sorpresa speaking from Leardell Medical. Working as a process engineer, we focus on vision system as an edge device. So I'm glad to share with you our experience with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining today. Okay, let's move on. Marius, welcome. Same for you. I know you've been working with Tulip for some time, so the list is long, but we hope to tackle most of them.
Yeah, also, thank you for inviting me here. My name is Marius Schmid. I'm from DMG Mori, based in Germany in Europe. Working for DMG Mori, which is a tooling machine manufacturer. And we're using Tulip and edge devices specifically for connecting RFID systems, torque wrenches, digital measurement equipment, and also Tulip origin equipment like light kits and other stuff like that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're really excited to have you on today and to hear even more about how using it. And since we're on that topic right away, I would love to just transition into the next topic, because you mentioned, as you said, like as a partner, there is more to it, and you've been working with Tulip for quite some time. So would you mind sharing a little bit how you scope use cases, train the team? Because very often the question is, how do I even get started? And how can we even kick it off?
Yeah, sure. For us, the big challenge, maybe as some background information, we have been using Tulip since 2019, so basically for 2 years now. And as I said before, we are globally active, and we have across Europe approximately 8 factories. And the challenge for us was and still is, how can we like orchestrate and organize this rollout, and how do we bring people together and also make them use Tulip in the right way? We're focusing in our production on both machining parts, pre-assembling, assembling until delivery and commissioning. And our key decision at the very beginning was to train a bigger team from different factories together in one room. It was pre-COVID time. In one room, train them 1 week and make them familiar with what Tulip can do and what Tulip should do. And afterwards, we were facing, besides the fact of learning Tulip, we were facing the big challenge how to learn implementing. And this is with Tulip, and it was discussed before in the sessions, it was like agile. So people started to learn what does it mean to work agile. So we took this big group of people from the different plants, sliced them in 3 smaller teams, and brought them to some of our factories and said, look, guys, you know Tulip, you have the toolbox, and now it's about finding use cases and implementing them and ensure that you're creating value for the organization. And we did this in an agile way. So we teach them, okay, in the morning, please plan what you're going to do. Develop in Tulip, go out in the afternoon to the operators and ask them, what do you think about this? Give me feedback. What is good? What is bad? Does this help you in your daily operations? And we did this during 1 week, and afterwards people learned this new way of working for us in many ways. Some of these apps from 2 years ago, they are still existing, so it was really good. Some of these apps we have not used them anymore, and we decided, okay, this is not what really brought us value. But it was a learning curve. It was kind of a failing, but active failing. So we learned why we cannot use it. And when it comes to scoping, and this is something then people also need to learn. They need to learn, where can I apply this? How do I scope a use case? We try very closely to link it to real benefit. So we don't want that people just build apps for the sake of having nice lights, light kits blinking, or having nice screens and fancy stuff around. We want that people really create value in daily operations. And this is why we go and we say, please sit down very closely together with our continuous improvement department and ask them to sketch, okay, what is your planned improvement? Which waste, which saving are you going to generate? Which waste are you going to get rid of? And second, how much time do you plan more or less to spend? Which equipment will you need to have a very quick business case? And then say, okay, go ahead. But we closely monitor it. And how do we get the ideas? Basically, the key was to give this tool to a lot of people. So people know best where their day-to-day problems are. There is not a central department that is screening all plans and searching for improvements. It's people have the will to improve, and I think this is crucial to really go inside and say, okay, they know the tool, they know their problems, just bring it together.
Right, and you just mentioned a very important fact. Improvements are essential to really make it happen and to work around certain things. And the people who know it is not necessarily like the same people building the app. So it's very important to have that knowledge exchange. But it is an opportunity to bring it together. Is that what I get from what your experience showed?
Absolutely. It's we have the people on the shop floor. We have the frontline operators. They know their problems. They know their daily pains. We have trained also operators because they were skilled. They know Tulip and they build apps, so they can solve their own problems. That's the best case. But on the other hand, we have process engineers, people from work preparations, quality that have another view on processes, and they have a wider view on processes. And in the team, I think it's a great chance to really build good apps.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, since we're talking about improvements and how that affects multiple groups, I would love to bring in Tanya into that conversation, because I know that she really did a lot of things when it came to improvements on her end. And welcome back. I hope everything works now.
Yes, that was so confusing.
No worries. We're glad that everything works out now.
Yeah.
So welcome again. As you probably heard, this improvement topic is very big, and there are many things how you can leverage all these edge devices to really improve your processes. And I know that you've been doing quite some work, and you also have had some very impressive examples of improving what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. We started on one of our production lines where we had a lot of non-conformances. We had defects, quality was poor, assembly definitions were not good. Once we implemented Tulip onto the first production line, our first pass yield went from single digits to double digits, then to over 50%. Now we're in the 60s and 70s. It drove quality back into our production line. It also increased the morale on the production line because they're not doing rework. They're able to reach out and their voices are heard, and they are able to make suggestions. And then we go out onto the floor, they can reach us right away. It's been a great tool to bring the shop floor to the management and the management to the shop floor.
What do you feel was most critical to win them over? Because I know it's always a transition, adapting new tools, working with a new solution.
Yeah.
Is there something that was very crucial for you to say, that really helped them?
What really helps is when you recognize their input, and then we celebrate their first pass yield. So we are able to take their improvements in their production cell, and we can celebrate them and celebrate their scorecard, and that drives that morale to the next person, and the next person wants to have just as improved scorecard, and we have reward programs as well, so that definitely helps. But the actual scorecards being displayed, and then our huddles in the morning before they actually go to work, and we announce those, that brings the team together, and it also drives everyone else to want to have Tulip in their production cell. So it's been a great growth and a great story to tell here in our production lines.
Yeah, those numbers sound incredible. They are really fantastic.
They are.
It's definitely something to be proud of.
Definitely.
Yeah, and speaking of this, how it helps your team also to be proud of something, that actually reminds me of something. And Dan, if you don't mind if I point you out here, but I think I heard that in something you shared in another talk, when it came about humans don't have data, so it actually can help. Is this something that you think also links to this improvement topic?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can't talk about things like OpEx and lean without talking about things like cycle time. And there's so much data that we don't have from these human-centric operations that Tulip and having edge devices really allows us to get, and to also incorporate, like Marius was saying with the digital calipers and other instruments, that they're collecting data in that method. That's, one way to do it. But we're also collecting data that we previously couldn't have in a live format. Back in the day, if you wanted to get a cycle time, you had to go out there with a stopwatch and a clipboard and stand there for hours and just record cycle times over and over and over. Now, when you have these digital operations on a human manual operation, it collects it for you because it knows when you start, it knows as you progress through each step, and when you're done. And then it aggregates it, and you can see it on an operator by operator basis, hour by hour basis. And you can start to analyze it and ask questions like, oh, well, why is this person, 10% faster than everybody else? What are they doing differently? What is there something about the way they're doing it that we can copy to everybody else? And now we can all gain that efficiencies.
Right. Yeah, it's really a helpful tool for them. It helps them make their job easier versus really having the stopwatch in hand, which sounds very strange, but the thing is, it's reality, right? It's not something we are making up to say, look, this is like olden days. No, it's a real thing.
This is still 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, as you did at Densply, to really initiate and set up a successful new system, including those devices, training all these people. Is there, like, what is necessary to maintain that? Because I know it's one thing to train it and get people on board, but the other thing is you need to keep the show running, that people continue to use it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, like Mario started to kind of allude to, there's multiple levels on it, right? So he's got operators involved and process engineers. The way we've kind of hierarchied it is that you have operators that are using the app, but then a couple of those operators in certain areas are also trained to troubleshoot some of the more common things that are very easy to troubleshoot. Then you've got another tier of troubleshooting as well as app development on the engineering level. And these are people who are going to be creating apps, editing apps, updating apps, and then also troubleshooting more critical things that maybe can't be done on the floor. And then you've got another level where you have connecting to back end systems, kind of that really tough IT sort of troubleshooting and developing functions. And at Dunsplash Rona, the way we've done it is we've also developed a steering group to help us really identify and make sure that we're on the right path for the new apps that we want to do. So we still collect the ideas from the floor, from the operators, from the guys who are in the midst of it and doing the actual work. But then we prioritize it based on, the company objectives.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. And I think what really strikes me as important and very interesting here is that the difference of that it doesn't end just setting up a level support. It's also what is the next step, and
Right.
it's really like how you continue to do that, and move forward, talk to the right people, have the right people in the room to talk about new use cases.
Exactly.
Right. What is that also reminds me, or just moving back also to Tanya here, who said, I know like it took her some time to set it up quite a bit. So how is it for you continuing that and transitioning from setting it up over some time and now getting positive feedback? What is your method to maintain it today?
Well, the first one, of course, is the most difficult. But once we realized and understood how the I/O worked between our smart devices and the brake beams and the Pictolights, once we actually wrapped our minds around it and did the first one, we were able to replicate and move on to duplicate production lines. The newer production lines that we have, we use the same technology, we use the same smart tools, so each one moving forward became easier and easier, and we have developed our team to deploy. Once we have all the hardware and the software is already ready to go, we deploy in a day and we can have our production line up.
Yeah, great. No, good points. It's really about the journey and bringing the right people at the right time.
But it really wasn't difficult. We had a handful of folks there at Tulip that actually were there to reach out when we had questions or difficulty, and they were able to walk us through those difficult moments.
Yeah, I think that ties probably back also what Dan said earlier, the right support system that your questions can get answered.
Yes.
To not have any frustration when you're bringing in new technology, new devices that should help in the future, but it's first this learning experience to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Dan was saying earlier, the data that we have captured really drove us to keep deploying, because we have areas now where we never thought we would be, and we have that traceability now. We can actually give to the customer and that they can move forward with. So
right, yeah, absolutely. I would love to bring Luis into that conversation because he also has incredible numbers of setting up computer vision as his company and really running a great show there. So I would love to hear both from you, like the maintenance, but also to learn a bit more how you're doing that, because I know computer vision is a topic that's pretty hot right now and many people talk about it, but the question is, how do you do it in production? And you're an excellent example of doing it like start to end, so we'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Dominic. I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to explain since the base how we integrate Tulip here to our factory. As you know, in this year we started using Tulip software. So basically, we decide to first digitalize our process and all the documentation that we have, because we have tons and tons of documentation. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to be honestly. Not all of this paper is used. It's only storage. So basically, this is the way that we decide to jump until for digitalization. So basically, once we get this Tulip integrated, we decide to launch 2 different products. This is the amazing thing. And first of all, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to be honest with this. When we integrate Tulip, we were appointing, or we were targeting to first to ensure our quality, to not getting any non-conformance from customer, and also to ensure pretty hard our quality in every single mannequin. So basically, as we decide this, we decide to include a vision system. I'm going to tell you very quick, probably everybody knows about this, but vision system is only to track in real time what the application is looking for, that is visualizing. So basically, once we get the vision system integrated to our application, we need to cover several hours here. I mean, our work was very hard, because for every single change, the ramp up is going to be. You need to work with the operators together, and also you need to work together to all the team to let them know how it is going to be deployed and how it is going to be work this kind of system, right? So basically, once we have this vision system integrated, I'm going to tell you something. We have more than 20,000 pieces already made during this year, without rejection, without any non-conformance from any customer. So basically, for us, was a big challenge, but at the end, we looked that this challenge was successfully.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned that vision. You explained a little bit the background. I know that we have some pictures. Would you mind sharing a little bit the setup of it? Because again, like cameras in a production environment, we'd love to hear a little bit more about how that's set up.
Yeah, for sure. In this slide, you can see this is how we set our station first. As you can see, we do not have any computer, any system. This is our package station for the first assembly line that we had with Tulip system. So basically, what we have here is that this is, as I mentioned, the package station do not have any kind of process to track what the operator is doing. So basically, our main failure here can be that a missing component exists. So this is the main thing that we decide, why we decide to move forward with Tulip system and also integrate the vision system at the same time. And you know what? Sorry for that. My camera is fell down. So basically, correct kit parts in this way is that was that operators can package 2 different items by replacing another one. I mean, to have the correct quantity of items, but not the indicated items. That's the way that we need to move forward. What we were thinking on this, and at the end, we do not have enough details to be tracking. The one that we liked a lot is that we can track every single cycle time for each assembly. So basically, our improvements, as you can see here, is our currently packaging station. We integrate an application with a vision system that we can track in a real time what the operator is doing. So basically, he or she cannot advance to the next step, that is packaging, until they achieve every single item inside the suitcase. So this ensures us a lot our process. So basically, as I mentioned already, any reaction for missing components from manufacturing can be here, because at the next step we will see We have an inspection test that we are doing in real time, and it is going to let us know if the mannequin or if the assembly is failing during the process. So please, can you skip this slide, please, to the next one? No, the last one, yes, this one. So basically, sorry, can you go up to the previous one, please? That one. So basically here, what we ensure first in the we have the assembly test. Here, the operator is doing several of steps on the function that the assembly should be deploying. So basically, with this, if we have any test that it is failing, automatically all the team that it is involved will receive a message, and we attack what the failing is telling us, and we investigate this. So this I like a lot, because this also is tracking by a table and is giving us at the real time a graph that we can see what is our Pareto every single day. So this is amazing. And after that, we have the items that should be inspected. We can see it at the bottom and on the left side that every single item has a square to be tracking if the operator is putting the in real time the correct item inside our package suitcase. And at the end, on the right side, we're seeing how the operator stores this information in a table, in a Tulip table. So this image that we are looking here in the application, we are storing in a cloud, and basically this help us to get it tracked every single assembly. This is amazing. This is what I can tell you from our experience using Tulip vision system. And at the end, sorry for that, Dominic, but at the end, as you can see, every single failure is tracked here. We have it recorded, and I mean, this is our currently Gemba's information, what we detect, where we're going to attack, and how we inspect it. This is amazing for us.
Yeah, no, and just the sheer change you made from no information to that level of information detail, again, like for visual tracking, is just incredible. So thank you so much for sharing that. When you shared the very first slide, I was wondering, and maybe we can ask Dan and Marius here, what was it for you, like both seeing an image of like such a simplified setup before edge devices came into play, and was it the same for you, like how you felt coming from the before and after? Dan, you muted. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a phrase of 2020, isn't it? So before and after, I mean, it's for us, it's quite a very different scenario, because we have digital work instructions that we use for our edge devices. So we're displaying instructions, on the computer in front of them, but the layout of the table hasn't really changed much. And it's beautiful to see these kind of changes, these improvements that, you can make small improvements and you can make large improvements, and it's just nice to see.
Yeah, maybe one remark for us. It's a bit like what Dan is saying. For us, parts of the workspaces have not changed a lot, but I think the advancement is the key. We have one example with vision in a pre-assembly cell, and it's also with the camera system, and it's connected to a light kit, and so you get guided through the assembly. You pick the right C parts, like small screws, where it's very easy to pick the wrong one, and basically it looks the same, but there's a light indicating you. And of course, I mean, you can say, well, you have experienced workers, they know what to do. In many cases, this is the case, but especially also when we have training of new staff, when we have substitutions, people might not remember what was exactly the screw to be put in a specific part. And I think there it gets really interesting.
So would you say that in general, being able of like visibility is key in general to get more visibility in what you're doing, getting guidance, seeing output. Is that like a common thread?
Yeah.
Maybe one, if I can comment, because Dan said it before, that there were ways back also before to create visibility, yeah? Like being there and look at it and document it. So this was a possibility, of course, and everybody has done it and is doing it. But the key right now is that you get visibility without extra costs. Yeah, I mean, of course you need to build a use case and you need to implement it and maybe buy some equipment, but it's continuous ongoing data that you're gathering and collecting. And I think this is the key difference to what was there before.
Yeah. And I think it's also good to point out that, where Luis is using vision to do quality control at that moment, in the operation, there's also use cases where, for example, we use vision systems just to take a picture so that if there is a problem, we can go back and do that same kind of quality control and investigation. And it really comes down to how much time, effort, money, resources you want to put into something on the front end versus the back end. If you're having quality issues, you want to address it up front. But if you want to catch complaints and just save on the investigation side on the back end, then you just take a picture.
Right. And you mentioned something, brought up the word costs, because I think for the longest time when it comes to new technology, and in this specific case what we're talking about today, edge devices, it was always like, yeah, well, does it justify the costs? And you said like taking a picture, how much is that saving you? And it probably depends on the scenario. What is it in your case? Is it like, would you say taking a picture and having the hardware helping you out here is saving it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's just a no-brainer, because the hardware and the implementation cost of just taking a picture is so small. And the amount of savings that you get from being able to just bring up a picture when there's an investigation, because a picture is 1,000 words. You can't enumerate that, because you're saving hours and hours and hours on a monthly, yearly basis of, not just operator time, but management time, of engineering time, of multiple people investigating a problem.
Right. And also we have to acknowledge to some extent that the costs for hardware, for edge devices are changing too. So, and maybe Luis, correct me if I'm wrong, but what kind of cameras are you using in your use case?
Oh, the ones that we have are the normal ones. I mean, we do not need a special one. It's a 1080 pixels only.
Yeah, so the investment is quite moderate here to get a lot of visibility.
Yeah, it's very cheap, this kind of camera.
Yeah.
But I think what you're just mentioning is one of the key points also for us. For example, with the latest vision technology, also I think it was announced also by Tulip, like it's OCR inside of Tulip. I mean, OCR is not new, but it's new that you give it to people on the front line, because before you had to go to the IT, somebody had to set up a system, specify it, and really shape it to the right document, and then you can run OCR. Yeah, fine. But now you're somewhere where you give people an iPad into their hand, or just install a basic webcam for 30 euros, and people can build their own OCR case. And maybe it's just reading a long serial number of a part. But like this, you can absolutely ensure that the serial number is correct. And because, I mean, if people do a mistake, it's the wrong serial number. On the other hand, we say for improvements, people cost a lot of money. We have in Central Europe quite high hourly rates, so we need to look for improvements. It's basically a good mix of different components where these use cases start flying.
Right, and I think it ties back to, enabling the operators, equipping them with these tools, which was before that not accessible for multiple reasons. And now it's affordable, it's available, it works. Obviously, all of you are good examples that you can come up with solutions and setups that provide value. And also, in Tanya's case, that you really can help them review their performance, get insight into what's been going on and how they're performing, which also sets the scene a little bit more, makes you more comfortable how you're working, and it's not just hearsay. It's a tool for them.
Absolutely.
Great, wonderful.
Only as a main proposal here, the proposal value of using Tulip, I'm going to add this for Dan comment, is that we're not waiting until receive any kind of non-conformance, any kind of rejection from the customer. I mean, we are attacking in real time our main, let's gonna tell this problem or main issue, and this is saving costs automatically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I got from your presentation there, is that you guys are doing it at the point of failure, that if there's a failure, you're going to catch it before it leaves the door. And that's a great use case, especially if you have failures happening at that time.
Definitely.
Maybe to add on this, what we are doing is, a machine assembly. Our machines are between the size of a car and size of a detached house, so it varies. But it takes some hours to assemble this. And a frequent problem was in such a process that at the end you start seeing different problems that you will need to fix until you deliver this machine. So at the end it always gets busy and, and quite urgent. And we sliced it down, and we involved the operators into more self-control, and we run frequent control points over this process. And it's about transparency and raising problems, maybe not in the moment they could be being created, but very close to it. And like this, you can counter them very easily at a very early stage, when you do not have to disassemble further stuff, where you do not have to change further stuff. You have time to react. And I think this is where the value is really also quite obvious.
Yeah, and we got a question actually, I think that fits well into that, because obviously those are examples on how well it works, and that you can catch things earlier and that it pays off. The question was, what are your thoughts on the average time to scale up and to justify the ROI for larger implementations?
I think the Guten Tag is interesting. This is a really good question. We're internally talking about, we call it net benefit. We look at a 12-month time, and we ask the people, what is the benefit, the saving, the improvement you're going to generate, and what are the costs that you're going to plan. And what we see currently is that most of our use cases, or the average use case ROI time, is 7 months. So we see that within 1 year, every use case is going to be paid back. Are there some longer ones? Yes, there are. Are there some faster ones? Of course, too. But I think, scaling up is something. It doesn't always have to scale up, I think, and justify an ROI. The use case itself can be in itself something that creates an ROI. So as said before, if you have the use case of Luis, maybe you don't plan to scale it because it's your only packing station in your company. But this is not the problem, because it will be an ROI on itself. And on the other hand, we have other use cases that we see. As I said, we have 8 production facilities across Europe. We're building some in one plant, and then we scale them up. But this is a mix sometimes of an ROI decision and a strategic digitization decision.
Yeah, that's a great point, Marius, especially about scale, because scale can be one station, can be one plant, can be a global thing. We have facilities all across the world, in Europe and in Asia, and we have some processes that we're scaling on a global level, and we have some processes that it really isn't going past one station. So the time frame on a scale up can really depend on what the scale is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how do you usually look into that to decide, okay, this is still worth it in that essence? If you have the example, one station versus it's scalable, because I know usually when we have that discussion, it's like the scale question comes pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's all about the use case, right? So, with Dentsply, we have a lot of facilities that make different things. In my facility and some of our sister sites in Europe and in APAC, we make patient-specific dental restoration. So these are things the size of a tooth. And not every site makes those. Some of them are making dental chairs or CAT scanners. So it wouldn't apply to them at all. So mostly we're talking about our sister sites when we're talking about a global scale up. And then they also have to have the same kind of physical workflow usually in order to also have that application of, is this edge device or is this digital work instruction going to work for them as well?
Maybe if I can.
Sorry, go ahead, please.
If I can add on this, because this is extremely important what Dan is saying. I think this is the key of democratizing the operations and the shop floor at the edge, because we had discussions with our central IT and they say like, okay, either you have a standard across all the sites, all the processes, then we can support you. Then you can maybe also build something connected to your ERP, MES, whatever. But in many cases, there are local problems that do not fit into the full standard for different variants, different products, different local requirements. And this is the point where otherwise you will lose the people and they will always remain in the 90s with their old-fashioned stuff. And I think this is the point. You give them a tool, and our central IT was like, hey, that's great. They can solve their problems, and we can give them a framework that is secure and compliant to use it. And like this, they start building. And what Dan was saying is absolutely correct. Sometimes you have one use case that is locally, but it solves a problem there, and it shows a benefit that you can even calculate if you apply the normal existing lean calculation methods, for example. And then why not doing it if you create a benefit?
What I would like to add here is that something that you said, and is very, very important here, that we have the same devices probably in the same plant, probably in the same country, same area, right? But for every single process, it could be different, the usage for each single device. So basically, what I like enough from Tulip is that we can adapt our devices to every single process that we have, even that it is the same. I'm gonna tell as in the air, even that we have the same assembly, head assembly, lung assembly, thorax assembly. Every single component has their specific process, so the devices could adapt to each one, right? So this is the main topic here, the main thing that we like a lot here from devices.
Yeah, and I just want to add a little piece there. You know, we have a couple operations that we've been able to harmonize and are globally more or less identical, that we do use edge devices and we use Tulip in, but one's in Europe and one's in the US, so we have different regulations. And for example, our European site has MDR regulations, has Brexit regulations that are specific to the UK. And so there's specific things that are adapted for their process that we don't use in the US, but we're still using Tulip. We're still using more or less the same digital work instruction, and we're still more or less physically harmonized in the way we do our processes, even with those regulation differences.
Right, yeah, it's still possible. It's just there is adaptability necessary regardless of the use case. That's also what I'm getting here. So there are many things that need us to be dynamic, flexible with the situation and just make it work. And coming back to that, there's one question. So what's the most challenging thing about building solutions that make use of computer vision? So I don't know if Luis, you can take that to get started.
Yes, I can tell you that making an application is easy once you get involved in Tulip, right? But I think that the most challenging thing here is how you are going to manage your device, in this case, the vision system, for the operation. I mean, you can think in some process that it is going to be for inspection, for production, for quality assurance. But at the real time, I mean, when you are on the field, you are going to look that not all the steps that you made probably are adapted for what your company needs. So basically, I can recommend here, or I can answer you, that the most challenging thing is that you're to cover your necessity full to not to get adapted as well as possible, and also to get this application feasible to everybody get involved in it. I can tell you this.
Is that valid for other use cases as well? And maybe Marius, you can take that because you have so many different topics you're working on.
Yeah. I mean, with regards to vision, we are still like at the beginning. We have this vision use case in our pre-assembly cell. We are right now testing for a use case where we want to optimize, we call it production dojo. So like analyzing production processes and creating like, for example, spaghetti charts. So how an operator is moving in an assembly cell. Currently, somebody needs to sit next to it and watch it and document it. So the same topic as before. And there is the human recognition. And this is something that is super interesting. So it starts with setting up like camera systems. You need to assemble them. You need to connect them to Tulip. You need to go through the networks. Of course, this is the stuff like always with IoT devices, right? It's you need to get the tunnel free to go from A to B, and then people need to learn from it and start testing. I think this is important. And one thing, and I think we should not forget it, and it always feels like being the grumpy one, but we have GDPR. It's private data. You're recording maybe you're not recording people, but you have the ability to do that, and that's something we should not forget. So we need to actively address it from the very first beginning. In our case, we are in close discussion with our workers' councils, talking to them, showing them what we want to do. And I think like this, we can together solve this. Yeah, it's also part of democratizing it, being open and transparent.
Yeah, privacy is a big one. We don't use vision, but we do use cameras in the operation. And when we first deployed it about 4 years ago, privacy was a big question. And being open and honest with the operators, working with them, showing them what it's doing, was really key. And the fact that we weren't recording them, there was just a small box on the table that is all that we cared about. Put the pieces in there. We'll take a picture of it. That's it.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe to add on this is also an advantage of such a no-code platform like Tulip, because people understand what is happening there in the way you build the app. People, right. Operators can be part of this application building and solution building, so they understand better what is happening. They get a feeling, and thus also the fear or the distance is lower.
Yeah, no, that's so true, because the more you know it and the more you understand it, the less strange or unknown it is, because the unknown is usually the one that's scary. So that really helps to figure it out, test it out yourself, as you said, a no-code platform that helps, but also with the devices that you can really touch it, sit in front of you. It's one thing to democratize it, to make it accessible, but also is to get your hands on it so you can actually see it, you know what it's doing. That also, I think, helps to lower the barrier to really use it and accept it. So with all these great topics, that leaves me with one question. What excites you about the future of the Edge? Like, open up your notebook. What is in your dream notebook? What are you dreaming of coming next? What you're looking for?
I guess I'll go first. It's what are we going to come up with next, really? 2 years ago, who would have thought that we would have OCR available to everybody? Something that we could all use, as opposed to, like Marius was saying before, some that need an IT resource, some that need programmer and developer, and all these resource-heavy things that you'd need for something like OCR. Even 5 years ago, before we started with Tulip, who would have thought that we could have such edge-connected devices and such easy to create digital work instructions and applications on the shop floor? It used to be that if we needed an app, we would either hire someone and we would get a static app that could never be updated, or we would have to beg and plead with our software development team to give us an app, and then it would still pretty much be static and never updated unless we begged and pleaded again. But to now have this no-code platform that we in operations can be in charge of is, I mean, it's mind-blowing from 5 years ago. So I'm excited to see what's going to come next, and yeah, how we can then use it and make things better.
All right. Luis, what is your,
Yes.
anything you have on your mind? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I can tell you something here. In talking about these devices, it depends on what you are doing in your purposes. But I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna be honest. We have several devices open to be a possibility of adapting to our stations with the side vision system right now. But I do not know if we can adapt another one. If there is feasible to adapt another one. That's what we get glad, because we have a lot of opportunities in every single process. So basically, if a process is always perfect, you do not have something to correct, you don't have something to do on it. So what we are glad on it is that we have many devices to install and also to try using Tulip together, and also to get in tracking for improving all our methods. And even that, we can improve our process and also our production systems. So this is what everybody gets glad here, because as you know, we start with the vision system, but there are hundreds of possibilities to do. They mentioned already the pick up to live systems, the Andon system, so many speakers. We use already a scale system. So basically, there are a lot of possibilities. And I'm going to tell you something. We do not know already what to do with all of them.
So you already have a plan in mind what you want to do with them?
Yeah, with most of them.
Wonderful. I can't wait to hear next time we have you over for a panel that you can share what you accomplished with them, like even more tracking than what you're doing today. All right, Marius, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, future of the edge. It's a big thing, I would say. What excites me most is that basically we started our journey, and this is and we will continue this journey, and it's going to be a journey. So this means all this like IoT things like I don't know, in Europe, Industry 4.0, all these buzzwords were flying around, and right now we're really doing things and we're learning about. And I think this is very exciting. And I believe that in a couple of years, it will be a standard part of our toolbox. So people will not think about it anymore, but just connect items because they, or tools and equipment because they know how to do it. The point that goes together with this, and this is super exciting, is that people talk about data. And this was in the past, people talked about documents, I don't know, protocols or instructions, whatever, about Word and Excel files. And suddenly we're talking about common data models. So if we move something through the company, we need to have maybe one data field, one data defined for one piece. And this is very, very exciting. And what our big vision, of course, is also to connect our edge with our supplier's edge and our customer's edge. So we want to cross these bridges. And for us, Tulip is one vehicle to do that. So to really say, okay, look, this machine consists of certain parts. They're coming from these suppliers. Why not connecting them? Yeah, bring them together and use also the edge of our supplier to fill into this data lake and bring it to our customer. If he has a problem, we can root cause it much more easily because we have the full data stack.
Yeah, I love that point. I know you mentioned we're now talking data, because I attended, oh my God, that dates me, the Hannover Fair, like the world, like big manufacturing trade show in Germany. Like quite some years ago, I attended there, and it was all over these buzzwords you just mentioned, but it was very hard to grasp. It was something that's about to come, but what does it mean? People had ideas and dreams, but it was more like, what does the reality look like? And I think right now, what you're saying seems to me that it feels within reach, that we can actually access information, and we're talking about information that is real because we have it. It's not a buzzword blob that is hovering around and people try to use it. It sounds more like applications. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, Absolutely. So it's not slides, it's not PowerPoints anymore. It's real use cases. People use it every day. People scope it, build it, learn from it, and maybe fail. And this is what Ronnie was saying in the keynote at the beginning. It's a new mindset of working, because this is what in the past didn't happen with IT projects. It's not at least not in my industry, but everything was waterfall. So from a very big specification through implementation or through building, testing, and then you implement. And right now we're really learning how to work in an agile way. And this is something, I think it's the only way to move forward, because there is no blueprint. I mean, this is what I'm always telling to our people. There is no blueprint. Nobody comes around the corner and says, this is how you do it, because every company is different. Yeah. So yes, there is some white papers and information and recommendations, but to really do it, you need to find your own way.
I think that's talking about Agile is really clutch, I think, here, because someone just told me the other day, Agile is not going away. It's not, the buzzword of the century or something. It's here to stay, and people are using it all day, every day. And I also hear in OpEx and Lean conferences and discussions, about incorporating Agile, because it really is just a part of the PDCA cycle where you just iterate constantly. And that's where we're at. That's where we're going.
Yeah. Luis, is that, yeah.
I'm going to tell you something that Marius already told here. It is very important that when we start to transfer and using business system, I remember very well that for each product, what we did before as I told you, before the vision system, is to use a spreadsheet, scan every single component, and that's all. I mean, we were laughing at first time, because you know what? This is amazing how we were glad with only a spreadsheet, fill it by the item number, and then we print it, and then was the storage, and was only that the process was done. And man, this doesn't tell me anything. And that's the way that as we integrate vision system, always every single day we were laughing like, hey man, we cannot compare the spreadsheet with all this information that we're tracking right now. That's a funny thing.
Yeah, that's true. It really changed over the years a lot. And since we're coming to an end, I want to, before we wrap up here, really say thank you to all of you. Tanya had to jump on something that's production related, reality of working in production. So thank you to her too for joining. Thank you all for joining. What you're doing right now with edge devices, and also what your vision is, and also experiences, very honest, like how you're using it today. That was exciting. Thank you so much. I can't wait to have you on maybe next year to hear what is the new thing, and we're gonna probably smile at things you did today, hope in a positive way, because you made so much progress. We can't wait to support you all going there. So thanks again for joining today. And I hand it over to Gio, who's gonna wrap up with some information, and we'll transition into the next session.
Thank you, Dominique, and thank you to all the panelists. It's been really interesting to hear more about the use cases that you've been building with Tulip, and some of the advantages and what the future holds with the edge. So there's two quick things that we wanted to share. So the first one is an exciting new podcast that we launched just last week, actually. So the podcast is called Behind the Ops. As you can see here, it reveals the stories behind the innovators on the front lines of operations. So users of Tulip from around the world tell their stories of how they've been using Tulip and how it's transformed their shop floor. So thanks again to everybody for joining, and we'll see you next time.